Greetings, kindred spirits. I apologise, I am a little bit late with this, but that's because I wanted to cover the Lionsgate portal and Uranus's retrograde in Aries, as well as this full moon. So it looks like the energies will definitely be ramping up throughout this time, but I'm glad to say that it looks like the tables may turn at the new moon on the 19th of August in the collective's favour. So all I can say right now is hold on to your hats, because it looks like things are about to get a little bit more active. And, once again, things are likely to be, there's a lot going on. So the full moon reaches its peak in Capricorn in the true lifetime sky on the 3rd of August at 16:58 in the GMT time zone, at 11:58 in the EDT time zone, and on the 4th of August at 1:58 in the AEDT time zone. I feel like emotions will be a little bit more strategic and but can tend to be misdirected. So let's get into it. So the new moon that took place in Cancer last month has emitted a very, very powerful energy. Actually, even I have been shocked at just how powerful that new moon's energy was, with, the events that have been occurring ever since then. And you can listen to my last podcast for that particular moon cycle update on my playlist here on YouTube. But, I have to say I was quite amazed watching it all play out. So where the new moon last month hyped up our emotions and our compassion and our need to protect ourselves or others, this Capricorn full moon will be more about emotional distance and self-preservation. This energy emitted by the Capricorn full moon is more about self-gratification and dictatorship, since our aspects to the other planets and points do sway more towards the negative side of our nature. Our moon will be in square to Uranus too, who is currently transiting Aries. So this does portray that there will be those who will push past boundaries to stand out in the crowd or to be heard. And we must make sure that if we are doing that, then we are doing it in a structured and practical way if we really want to achieve positive results. Or else we may tend more towards narrow-mindedness and just completely miss the point. So our moon is also enshrined to the goddess Juno of domestic harmony, and we do have an opportunity to be more compassionate towards others if we can rise above the power struggles and lack of self-discipline that is being emitted by the opposition between Mars and the goddess Juno, which in this instance may make it a little bit too easy to fall into a false sense of duty, rather than to structure and organise our activities in a more practical way. Actually, this particular opposition is forming a grand aspect, the T-square, since they are both in square to the retrograde Jupiter too. So this is all about us having to come to terms with our higher perception of our own morals and principles and our philosophical differences with others. The goddess Juno represents traditional relationships, but she also represents the abused or neglected spouse, being the wife of Jupiter in mythology, who went about his business without any thought or consideration to her feelings. So Mars in square to Jupiter is all about developing self-discipline when it comes to impulsive action So there is this need for many to bring harmony back into their relationship with others, but at the same time, we must not allow the need for peace to hinder any decisive action. We must view things from all perspectives to make positive progress in all areas of importance. Our Cancer Sun is in trine to Mars this full moon, which is really adding to the hyped up energy. Like I said before, trines are easygoing aspects, but sometimes they can tend towards laziness and give us that false sense of confidence. So it is important that we knuckle down and not follow the status quo, but to analyse all actions or information coming in from a place of inner strength and unconditional love. We need to see the whole rather than just snippets, or we need to see the bigger picture rather than just act on little snippets. Like I said a few months ago, this second half of the year is going to be very intense as our systems continue to crumble. And if we are allowing ourselves to get caught up in all the hype, we could end up expressing our egoistical side rather than our positive. So, in a positive sense, we could all come together as a collective and work together on attaining goals involving humanitarian causes, by respecting each other's opinions and values. We must educate each other, not enforce our doctrines, because doctrines are a part of an old system that no longer holds any value or grounds for the so-called New Earth. The Black Moon Lilith will be at 0 degrees in Aries this full moon, which can be a very competitive energy where our self-worth is low and our egoistical behaviour is high. This blinds us to potentials and opportunities that may present themselves at this time. This moon cycle is where it can be too easy to feel like we know it all, or where our confidence levels are based on our defence mechanism rather than our own unique self-power and inner strength. So the Lionsgate portal opened at the new moon on the 20th of July too. And this is also, again, while we're feeling intensity, especially in our crown chakras and our third eyes, but it will peak between the 8th and 12th of August, and the 13th will be the day of integration. So as always, the 8-8 always occurs with our sun in the sign of Cancer, not Leo, in the true lifetime sky. The sun won't enter into Leo until the 10th of August. So the Lionsgate portal normally peaks for around 2.5 days in Cancer and then 2.5 days in Leo. And both are very creative energies. Cancer is ruled by the moon, which emits a creative feminine energy, and Leo is ruled by the sun, a creative masculine energy. So the Lionsgate portal is all about us aligning the masculine and feminine, both within and collectively. And normally the energy that comes in from this particular portal is enlightening, and it creates a lot of growth, especially spiritually. It's a time where we have a lot of psychic visions and prophetic dreams. They are very common around this time. Cancer also rules the third eye and Leo the heart. So Cancer's energy is more introverted whilst Leo's energy is more extroverted. So the first 2.5 days are about downloading our new light codes, and the last 2.5 days are about integrating those light codes into our heart chakras. And as easy as that sounds, it does tend to be an intense time for many. And I feel that this particular Lionsgate is one of the waking lion, the one whose peace has been disturbed, and we all know that lions do not like to be disturbed or forced to move. So this to me portrays an antagonistic vibe that creates a lot of unrest. So on the 8th of August, our Sun would have reached 18 degrees in Cancer, and this degree is quite a difficult number. It shows a conflict between the masculine and feminine energies, and I think we are already seeing this play out in the collective in a number of ways. This number also represents the elemental energies of air and water. So to me it represents the fear of the unknown, which has been ongoing throughout this year, but more so since the last new moon. So the aspects on this day, the 8th of August, are showing that there is a lot of difficulty in us reaching our goals as individuals and collectively, and that's because we have 3 major players all retrograding in Sagittarius: Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto, which does affect the Earth on the whole, as Sagittarius is a sign of the traveller and also rules the integration of different cultures. So Jupiter, being the ruler of Sagittarius, alongside Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, do both emit a globalist influence, and I feel that is why the world events that are going on today are being felt by every nation. Pluto is atomic, and he is also the enlightener, especially when he is transiting Sagittarius, who is also known as the truth seeker. So our Sun will also be in sextile to the goddess Juno throughout most of this full moon cycle and Lionsgate portal. So this is an aspect where mediation could also provide positive outcomes when it comes to disagreements between loved ones or, just those that we are close to. Our Sun will also continue to be in square to Uranus right up until the 11th of August. And Mercury will come into square with Uranus on the 10th too, which means that we can possibly reject any olive branch being held out due to a lack of perseverance or stubbornness, since the energies are likely to be very erratic and restless. We must beware of being too much in our ego with our high expectations that are just beyond or are unreachable. Uranus, like Neptune, has no boundaries as such, when it comes to breaking free and independence. Although Neptune's boundaries are more lacking when it comes to imagination. So these aspects between our Sun, Mercury and Uranus can hold a strong tendency towards self-sabotage on a negative level. But on a positive, with our Cancer Sun in square to Uranus in the Aries, we can actually use this energy to help get us organised, as long as we are using Cancer's creative visualisation skills alongside the Arian's courage and pioneering skills to form unity in various groups or group activities. So on the whole, we can be forced into this situation where we could all come together in unity and in support of each other's causes and injustices, and that would really be a wonderful thing for humanity on the whole, because all injustices and causes that I'm seeing people fight for right now are just as important as the other if we take out the politics, and just do it for the people. Uranus does represent higher consciousness in a most positive guise. So, used negatively, this square between our Sun and Uranus can just lead us into drama and useless destruction if the energy of the antagonist becomes more dominant. So if we can use this energy wisely and accept that diversity is actually a beautiful and unique thing, then we could really reap some valid rewards and work together on building that new earth that we have all been promised. It's all about energy. So we must ask ourselves, what energy are we emitting vibrationally? And how are we expressing it physically? How are we communicating? What are we impelled to act upon? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves and be honest in our self-appraisal. The Lionsgate portal last year brought in an energy of exposure and recognition of what doesn't serve us on a higher level of consciousness. But since then it has felt like we have been taking one step forwards and two steps back. And although it was a very intense and stagnant time that we were all feeling back in 2019, the energies we are feeling now are the complete opposite. Especially since the Black Moon Lilith's transit through Pisces on the 8/8 stays in Pisces throughout the whole of this Lionsgate portal and the future moon cycles leading up to October. And it'll be in October where the shift from Pisces into Aries becomes more prominent for the Black Moon Lilith. And that's because the Black Moon Lilith's transit always flits backwards and forwards between two signs at a time. And her next cycle, once she has left Pisces completely, will be alternated between Aries and Taurus, although Aries will be the most dominant initially. So basically we will be coming down from the higher realms of our thought processes into the earthly realms, where the Black Moon will be influencing our active physical roles rather than our spiritual ones. And with the Black Moon Lilith currently in conjunction to Mars, emotional aggressive outbursts are highly likely for those who are feeling easily triggered right now. So if you are feeling easily triggered, please work on that. Because, we do have opportunities coming in to turn the tables, but only if we are willing to step down off the pedestal and work at ground level with the people, for the people. So apart from the T-square I mentioned earlier between the goddess Juno, Mars and retrograde Jupiter, there is also another one being formed between the goddess Vesta of the sacred fire, the retrograde Saturn, and Mars. So basically Vesta and Saturn are in opposition and both are in square to Mars. And these two T-squares will be ongoing throughout the rest of this Lionsgate portal. So as I said earlier, the Juno-Mars-Jupiter T-square will be about us having to view things from all perspectives to make positive progress in all aspects of importance. So whilst the Mars-Vesta-Saturn T-square emits a contradictive energy when it comes to our energy levels, the goddess Vesta in opposition to Saturn also emits an influence of repression and denial. So these are energies that we need to overcome, because as they're both in square to Mars, it does show an overload of pent-up frustration, both sexually and emotionally. So, let's hold on to that thought for a moment. Our moon will be in conjunction to Chiron on the 8th of August too, which is all about ongoing abandonment issues and being over needy. Also Pluto, who is in retrograde, takes a step back from 27 degrees to 26 degrees in Sagittarius. So for the 13 star sign Sagittarians, or if you have a strong Sagittarius placement in your chart, you will definitely feel this shift in energy, because Pluto is normally a very slow mover. Well, actually, he is a very slow mover. So when he does make a shift, it tends to be felt. It tends to be felt collectively, globally anyway. But Sagittarius, this is like the second or third retrograde for you over the last couple of years. And, it's like no sooner do you feel you're moving forward, it's like you're being thrown back into regression, so back into the self or back into the past in some way. So, and even on a collective level, I feel that, this can be a reoccurrence of something. And that reoccurrence would take us back to New Year's Day of this year. That was the last time Pluto was at 26 degrees in direct mode. So if we go back to New Year's Day of this year, we will be getting some kind of enlightenment, or maybe even solutions to whatever was going on around about that time. And again, that's on an individual and collective level. So on the 9th of August, which is the second day of the Lionsgate peak, a grand fire trine will form between our Sun, Moon, Mars and the South Node. The South Node is what we are already comfortable with, and grand trines in general again show a flow of ease, which can influence us to be too easygoing or laid back. So in all, this particular grand trine can emit that feel-good feeling, but with Mars and the South Node involved, shows that we could once again miss out on great opportunities if we take those opportunities for granted by being too apathetic or over-focused on our own self-interests. The Black Moon Lilith and Mars conjunction is actually ongoing throughout the peak of this Lionsgate portal anyway, but on this day, the 9th of August, our moon will join them, which will just heighten the emotions even more so. And, the outbursts could get pretty heated. So I guess that this is a warning for many of us to actively and productively let off steam. So power walks, pumping iron or things along those lines will be a good release for all this pent up energy. So I would just say be careful on the 9th and the 10th. The Sun will enter into Leo on the 10th of August. So this is fire coming out of water into fire, where our emotional natures can turn into a battle of wills. And on the 11th of August, our moon then comes into conjunction with Uranus, which creates mood swings and a continuation of emotional outbursts, especially as the Black Moon and Mars will still be in conjunction. So the 10th and the 11th is a firing up of our energy levels, but more in the public arena. And it may also be in our domestic lives too, depending on our individual circumstances. So on the 12th of August, at the closing of the Lion's Gate portal, the grand aspect, the Yod, comes into formation. And a Yod in general is a very triggering energy. So Neptune and Pluto, who have been in sextile for a very, very long time, will both be in quincunx to our Sun and Mercury. And this is an energy that can be quite overwhelming and uncontrollable when it comes to our personal power. Neptune in sextile to Pluto does influence social change on a global level. These are outer planets that they stay in aspect for many years. And, like I said, it does influence social change. And positively, it can influence opportunities towards changes in our governments and human rights. So this aspect can also encourage a more spiritual way of life rather than a religious conforming one. But when they're both in quincunx to our Sun and Mercury, it can tend to make us run before we can walk. It can tend to lead us into losing our sense of direction and getting caught up in the hype created by others. So it's important that we do a reality check from time to time and keep working on maintaining an alignment or a balance between the masculine and the feminine sides of our nature, as the masculine energy is the most dominant at this time. The 13th of August is the rounding up of what we have been downloading from the Lion's Gate portal, and where the Sun reaches 2 degrees in Leo, which is the number of the moon. So this is definitely a day of integration, a day that would be good for, deep reflection or just reflection in general. The Yod between Neptune, Pluto, our Sun and Mercury will still be in effect as another grand Yod starts to form. And this particular Yod is forming between our Sun in sextile to the North Node and both in quincunx to Jupiter and Saturn, both retrograding in Sagittarius. And because the quincunx isn't quite coming to a point, Pluto will be sitting right in the middle of this incomplete Yod formation. So our approach towards others or situations can tend to be a bit off-key or maybe even disrespectful. There's definitely a shift going on in the collective when it comes to spiritual values and ideals, although some may be raising that goalpost a little bit too high. So whether we are caught up in the hype or just witnessing it, it does continue to be a testing time for many. So keep as grounded as possible. So Uranus goes into retrograde on the 15th of August and will stay in Aries throughout this particular retrograde, which will end on New Year's Day in 2021. Uranus moved permanently into Aries last April, I think it was, and has caused quite a stir, since both these energies do tend to be fast-paced and chaotic. Both are fighters for causes, and both are very impulsive. So together the vibes were always going to be erratic, with sudden shifts, twists and turns. When Uranus goes into retrograde, it will actually slow this energy down a bit, which will give us a little bit of breathing space so that we can come to terms with recent events and take note of the part that we have played in them. And I feel that this particular retrograde is going to initiate great change when it comes to our way of living. And also on the day where Uranus turns retrograde, you know, although we still have intense aspects between certain planets and points, which will be ongoing right up till the new moon, Uranus himself will actually be making good connections to our moon, Venus and Jupiter. So, you know, many will experience some profound changes when it comes to their identity or place in society. So I suggest that over the next 2 weeks that we get involved in physical activities where we can burn off any excess energy, you know, so it doesn't become stagnant. And of course, grounding techniques like deep breathing, meditation, I mean, they're always good tools to use and will be needed. But, you know, we have to be in that right frame of mind to be able to do them. So maybe they can be incorporated after an intense workout of some kind. That would be a good way to prepare ourselves for that quiet time or the quiet space that we need. So as always, kindred, stay in peace. Much love.